Well, tonight, the list of Democrats calling on Senator Bob Menendez to resign is growing. Fellow New Jersey Senator Cory Booker now among the more than 20 Democratic senators saying Menendez needs to step aside. Menendez is back on Capitol Hill today, but is set to appear in court tomorrow on 3 counts of federal bribery charges.
What do you know? After John Fetterman decided to be the one voice to finally speak out and say Bob Menendez needs to go, we now have 26 Democratic senators that are openly calling for Senator Menendez to then resign over these bribery allegations. Yes, they're still in the allegation phase. Some evidence has come forward, which has galvanized this approach to it, but it's building. Fellow New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, as they pointed out, is one of these folks who's joined on. If you're from the same state, I guess you're supposed to normally agree with everything the other guy does. Never understood that logic, but that's the way it is. Here's a bit of his statement. Apparently these last 3 paragraphs are really where the meat is. So let's go down to that bottom part. This is from Cory Booker. He said the details of the allegations against Menendez are of such a nature and that the faith and trust of New Jerseyans, as well as those he must work with in order to be effective, have been shaken to the core. As Senator Menendez prepares to mount his legal defense, he has stated that he will not resign. Senator Menendez fiercely asserts his innocence and is therefore understandable that he believes stepping down is patently unfair. But I believe this is a mistake. Stepping down is not an admission of guilt, but an acknowledgement that holding public office often demands tremendous sacrifices at great personal cost. Senator Menendez has made these sacrifices in the past to serve, and in this case, he must do so again. I believe stepping down is best for those Senator Menendez has spent his life serving. So Booker's calling for him to step down. He says he's seen it as a significant, the call is seen as significant since they do have this close personal relationship, of course, both from Jersey as well. But Fetterman, again, was that first one. And he went on MSNBC with Joy Reid, and he had a few more details and colorful language as to things that Menendez has been up to. Let's watch.
Are you surprised it took so long for so many of your colleagues to follow?
Honestly, I was actually surprised that I was the first one. I mean, it's so black and white. I mean, it's so clear. The last times there's ever been a man with so much cash in their home in New Jersey was Tony Soprano. I mean, it's not a close call. And if you were looking for the most incriminating kinds of evidence, nobody could even come up with gold bars in a mattress. And again, he's entitled to have his day in court, but he does not entitled to remain in the Senate, and he needs to go.
As we point out, 25 of the 51 Democrats are calling for his resignation, which means there's 25 left. Here's a few that are kind of on the fence or supporting him. Menendez received some tepid support from Senators Joe Manchin, West Virginia, is completely unsurprising, Tim Kaine of Virginia, and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, who all pointed to either the unfolding legal process or suggested that New Jersey voters should have the last word. Typical politician talk when it comes to these things, Rayyvana. I guess, is it fair play? I mean, he hasn't been convicted. Should he step down?
Well, first I want to say John Fetterman thoroughly got his ass there. The Tony Soprano comparison was apt. He absolutely should step down, particularly because the Democrats have a very close lead, a tight lead in the Senate, and there's some tough reelections coming up, including Menendez himself.
Yeah,
was facing. It's supposed to be a very easy reelection, but given these indictments, I mean, and this is someone this is not his first time around when it comes to allegations of corruption and indictments of corruption. He just beat the rap last time. He's not going to this time. The evidence is, like John Fetterman said, it's black and white. This man needs to step down. But I mean, looking at the people who are supporting him, you've got Joe Manchin and Tim Kaine in the membrane. Like, that is not exactly the group of people you want surrounding you to offer their support. Now, Cory Booker, it took him quite some time to make this statement, given when the indictments came out against Menendez. Of course, there, like you mentioned, there is this assumption that he's going to support the senior senator from the state. I think it's kind of brave of Cory Booker to come out and ask him to resign. I think that the calls for him to resign are such now, because it's not just those 26 people in the Senate. There's a ton of members of the House who are demanding that he resign in no uncertain terms, and the party, the Democratic Party in New Jersey, is demanding that he resign, and that is in the best interest of the people of New Jersey. That is in the best interest of the Democratic Party. It's in the best interest of the American people. And the choice here is clear. Step down.
Well, we'll see, because there's a thing. He's got a couple of allies that maybe we weren't expecting. Hey, you point out some of these folks like the Joe Manchins of the world. What he really needs is Tom effing Cotton. This is what he X'd. Whatever. It says the charges against Senator Menendez are serious and troubling. Okay, that sounds normal for a Republican. At the same time, though, the Department of Justice has a troubling record of failure and corruption in cases against public figures, from Ted Stevens to Bob McDonnell to Donald Trump to Bob Menendez the last time around. I think I'm seeing a pattern here. Senator Menendez has a right to test the government's evidence in court, just like any other citizen. He should be judged by jurors and New Jersey's voters, not by Democratic politicians who now view him as inconvenient to their hold on power, and every time they reveal and show their hands. So the only reason you're talking about this, Tom Cotton, is because you're trying to make it political as far as like, look what they're trying to do to hold on to power. Maybe, because if they were all 100% in support of him, you'd be saying, look at their support of corruption, and this corrupt senator is doing this and that. I think they're all doing it. Well, you're in support of him. Are you doing this stuff too? It's an easy way to twist anybody's words to make it seem like it when you're playing politics. Do you want corruption out? Or is it you're still also thinking about, as you mentioned in the first part of that tweet, Donald Trump? Now they can't go after any kind of criminal activity or potential criminal activity from other politicians, because the next very natural question to anyone who's saying Senator Menendez must go and you're Republican is, so what about Donald Trump? Because they can't answer that question. Because if there's corruption, there's corruption. And let's keep it real, potentially on a higher scale from Donald Trump. I got some details from what John Roberts said that I really wanted to talk about. But really fast, in case you guys missed the very beginning of it, this is the shortened version of some of these allegations. Because you heard about gold bars and $480,000. Let's go to that. Menendez and his wife, Nadine Arslanian Menendez, are accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in exchange for the senator's influence. Prosecutors allege the bribes included gold, cash, home mortgage payments for all you guys having problems paying your mortgage, compensation for a low or no-show job, and a luxury vehicle. I want you guys to look at all that stuff that he's allegedly been bribed over, and money exchanging hands and goods and services and mortgage payments. And think about how many politicians, pundits that have all this kind of money and access and things flowing around, and how much they say to you, as they just said about these auto workers and anyone else that's striking, or someone that's making $8 an hour and says, yo, I'd like to feed my family. When they say, stop being lazy, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work. The problem with Americans these days is they don't want to work, these millennials. Last I checked, Bob Menendez allegedly is not a millennial. And he also has all of these things that he apparently was nefariously exchanging for his influence. Is he being lazy? Does he not know how to work? Again, all alleged, all charges. We'll see how he gets adjudicated and whether or not he should step down, though. But there's this last picture of them walking into court, he and his wife strolling into court. The part about John Roberts on Fox News, it's the comparison between Donald Trump and his guest apparently showed his hypocrisy is the fun part about that. You got last thoughts on here, Rayyvana, before we get out?
Yeah, it reminds me, the Tom Cotton tweet, of something that Cenk said the other day, that a lot of people were angry about, but I actually fully agreed with Cenk on this point, was that the only way for Menendez to beat this rap this time around is to become a Republican, because then they have no choice but to defend him. I mean, this man was caught red-handed swimming in Scrooge McDuck-style pools of Egyptian gold bars, and he thinks that he doesn't have to resign. He thinks he's going to get away with it. It's hysterical, but in the Republican Party, you might get away with it. They would absolutely rush to support you. I mean, Donald Trump has been caught with his hand in the cookie jar how many times, and it doesn't matter, because every single time you're going to have this entire party apparatus that backs you, and they're going to back you all across corporate media. They're going to back you all across social media. They're going to back you all across right-wing, fringe media. And that doesn't necessarily exist within the Democratic Party. I mean, We've seen, Democratic members of the House and members of the Senate be asked to step down for a lot less than this. And so the pressure on him, in my opinion, is going to become so much so that he has to step down. But one thing I think is interesting about this story is that we have legalized bribery in this country for politicians. It is totally legal for corporations to bribe our politicians. But the reason, but Bob Menendez needed to go further than that. He wasn't satisfied enough taking those corporate dollars. He needed to be taking money from foreign governments as well, which I think is a fascinating insight into his psyche.
Craziness. I mean, that could be something easily Republicans could jump on and be like, look at this foreign influence, look at the Democratic Party, but they're being a little bit worried about how they'll do it, because I think they wonder how many other folks that they're actually in favor of could be doing similar things, or former presidents. Just saying. By the way, I think it was Kevin McCarthy. This is one of those points of hypocrisy. It was asked about Menendez, and I think rightfully so, he was railing on him. And then when they asked, well, what about George Santos and his fraud and corruption? He was.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.